Hello, everyone. Welcome back to part three of the Play on GA podcast. In this part, we're going to take a look at the Kilkenny versus Wexford hurling match, which happened last weekend, and preview the next round of hurling fixtures, which will be happening next weekend in the Allianz Hurling League. So, Kilkenny disposing of Wexford by 2 goals and 27 points to 23 points. Eye-catchingly, 1 goal and 18 points for TJ Reid. Superb performance from him. He continues to be as good as ever. He wasn't the only one who was brilliant for Kilkenny. Alan Murphy hit two very eye-catching points from out on the sideline. Derek Corcoran looked really good at right half-back as well. Owen Murphy made a brilliant save from Lee Chin in the 44th minute. Kilkenny looking quite polished, and you wouldn't bet against them now.
Yeah, I felt like this result was kind of coming for the last couple of weeks. Like we looked kind of at like Wexford had 2 wins on the board kind of in their first 2 games, but you look kind of the first week against Laois didn't play well at all and scored a few goals late on. And then Clare last week, they were looking to be well beaten in that game. And then it just changed on the red card. So I just felt Wexford haven't really been playing great so far, as opposed to Kilkenny, who've looked very sharp so far in the league. So just those kind of factors combined, they kind of expected Kilkenny to have the upper hand, and they absolutely dominated that first half in particular. And the scoreline's probably a bit more respectable for Wexford than what it even should be, to be honest, considering Kilkenny's dominance here.
Well, what was key for me was Wexford went 17 minutes without scoring, and Kilkenny hit 6 points in a row in that time. That's the difference in the game. That's where you win and lose the game. You can't let Kilkenny build up a lead. I said this in the preview. I said that Wexford switched off for periods of time against Laois and against Clare, and they got away with it because those sides didn't put them away. And I said that if Wexford switch off, Kilkenny will put them away, and Kilkenny put them away. There are some positives for Wexford. Like Lee Chin did look really good. He hit some wonderful points near the end. But you're wondering now, this is a massive year, in my opinion, for Wexford. This is a huge year for Wexford because they were so poor last year. And to get beaten out the gate like this by a team that they probably will play in the Leinster Championship, it is damning for them psychologically. It's, can they beat this team when the championship comes around? It's a massive year for Wexford because Davy does tend to have his cycle with his team. He has his standout year, and then after his standout year, things tend to go downhill very quickly. It happened at Waterford. They got to the All-Ireland final, and then a few years later, he was gone. It happened at Clare. He won the All-Ireland, then a couple of years later, he was gone. Wexford looked to have had a fairy tale year where they won the Leinster Championship and came within a whisker getting to the All-Ireland final. So now we're 2 years later, and on Davy's cycle, this tends to be the year where the story finishes and Davy moves on to the next team. This is a massive year for Wexford and for Davy to prove that they're not just a flash in the pan, they're here to stay.
Yeah, well, that is the big question. And kind of looking at where they're at right now, kind of it just seems very hard to imagine them challenging Kilkenny and Galway for Leinster. Like you'd probably put them on par nearly with a Dublin at this stage, kind of that would be their kind of the level they're at. They're at that kind of level just below the two kind of clear favourites in the province. So I think I think they need to definitely need to show more as the league kind of finishes up, and they really need to get some momentum going beforehand. But yeah, I think from a Kilkenny perspective, Cody would be absolutely delighted with how it's gone. Another kind of big score. You look at how they've been for the last week similarly against Antrim, racked up a big score on that as well. But this week, I think it was key. It was that some kind of different forwards kind of stepped up to what it was last week. Billy Ryan hit 1-4 and looked absolutely unplayable. He's another option corner forward. And then the other option we already talked about, Alan Murphy with 3 from play. So yeah, there's plenty of players stepping up and scoring big tallies kind of in these games, and they've so many options now.
Yeah, and what impressed me a lot about Billy Ryan was his direct running. Like for his goal, he really did drop the shoulder. He spotted a gap in the Wexford defence. The Wexford tackling, particularly Liam McGovern's challenge, was non-existent. Billy Ryan saw the gap, saw that they were vulnerable, put the head down and buried it. It shows Kilkenny still have their ruthlessness under Brian Cody. And yeah, right now, 3 out of 3, you can't really argue with that. They beat everything that was put in front of them. They did it in style, and they look in good shape for the championship.
Yep, absolutely. And I think you look at some of the players as well that like Owen Cody was only coming off the bench. Walter Walsh still no sign of him so far this year. They've plenty of kind of players that still would be kind of eyeing starter spots kind of coming into that team, but it's going to be hard enough to push some of the fellas that have been playing really well out. Like James Bergen didn't have his greatest game at the weekend, was taken off pretty early, but he's been excellent so far during the league. So there is so many options for Kilkenny, and we all know that Cody likes to have plenty of kind of forwards that he can sub on, like particularly All Ireland finals when he's shown surprise names in and stuff. So yeah, they seem to be in great shape. Similarly as well, I'd like to ask you what do you think about Derek Corcoran's chances of starting the championship this year at that right half back spot?
I think he has a great chance. I think he has a very, very good chance. I think Cody wouldn't be putting him in there if he didn't see him as, part of the plans for the championship now at this stage when we're so close. I think it's very likely as well, because with the fact that Killian Buckley is being played in midfield, that there will be a spot open in the half-back line with Pádraig Walsh playing centre half-back. And I think Derek Corcoran really impressed me at right half-back, particularly with his covering on the rebound of the shot from Lee Chin, which was saved by Owen Murphy. It looked like Damon O'Keefe was going to slap in the rebound, and Derek Corcoran comes out of nowhere and flicks it away. Brilliant defending. And he's a big, tall man. He's the type of player that Cody would like to have in that half back line. He's very similar to like a Dermot Burns. Yeah, I think he has a great chance of starting in the championship.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Cody's kind of been looking for a player in that position. Like you look what's happened in recent years, kind of he's had to kind of drop back Connor Fogarty into wing back to kind of cover back there. You see Connor Brown's on the other side and stuff. So to have a kind of natural wing back in that position that knows the position really well, which allows Paddy Deegan to go back in the corner back and stuff as well. I think he's going to play a big part this year.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I'm just wondering, how do you see Wexford now? As I've said, this being the key year for them to prove to everyone that they're not done. I think it is like that for them. I think that this year will decide, in my opinion, if this project that has been Davy Fitzgerald with Wexford, the goal of it all was to win an All Ireland. And if they perform terribly this year, I think that is the end of the story. How do you see them right now?
Well, look, I just think at the moment they're a long way off. Like I know we're talking about a team with 4 points that are like still technically in contention to be winning the league and stuff, but if you just look at the performance levels throughout the league so far, they've not been good really. They haven't even played kind of the two wins they haven't played. They've played the two struggling kind of teams in the division. They've got the handier kind of side of the division. So I would be a little bit concerned now from a Wexford perspective. And yeah, I like they've developed a few players in the wing back line, but again, the forwards just aren't really coming through. And it's the same kind of problems. It just seems a little bit stale right now.
Yeah, but to put a flip on it, has Davy overachieved with this team?
Yep, that's definitely a fair kind of thing as well. If you look kind of at the team that pushed Tips so far, so close, kind of in that semi final, and we're probably very unlucky to knock it over the line in that. They definitely overachieved with that team. And if you look kind of, you compare the Tip team that lined out that day and the Wexford team, yeah, I think Davies worked wonders with them at the time. And maybe this is now just that they got to a level that they just can't get to with this group of players, kind of, and that there's no shame in that, and that he's kind of brought them as far as he can go. And that I'm not fully sure if no matter who they bring in could get them back to that position for a few more years. Like,
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think it's important that people realise that Davy's done a wonderful job with this crop of players, because I looked at the team that they put out. And once, if you were to take Lee Chin and Conor McDonald out of that forward line, where are the scores coming from? Like all the players that play in the Wexford forwards, apart from Conor McDonald and Lee Chin and Damon O'Keefe, say, from midfield up, like would any of them players get into Galway's team, Tipperary's team, Limerick's team?
yeah, I think it's definitely a fair point. You maybe Rory O'Connor's probably the other one, and then beyond that, then you're looking at kind of like workhorses, and you're looking at fellas that aren't going to contribute kind of hugely to the score to the score line. So yeah, I think you're spot on there. I think there's around the middle they're probably just not quite strong enough. They probably get they can probably get bullied a little bit in the midfield. Yeah, they're kind of well able to. They've great legs around the middle, but they just get bullied against the big teams out around there. And I think they are just that little bit short, kind of the like personnel wise, if they want to be considered one of the big teams. With the way kind of Kilkenny have evolved now, with how strong Galway look at the moment, I just can't see them being able to live with either of those teams really right now.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put money down on them doing it, but I do believe in in miracles. Of course, having seen last year with Cavan and Tipperary winning the provincial championships in the football. So we're done with reviewing that game. Moving on to previewing the next round of fixtures in the Allianz Hurling League. So the first game on the Saturday is 1B. We're speaking about Wexford right now. They play against Antrim, and this game is in Antrim.
Yeah, look, I'm very, very tempted to say Antrim here, but like it's once again same situation. Going back up to Antrim, like playing in there, the huge travel up. Think about how far Wexford have to go up for this game against an Antrim team that have been absolutely ferocious in every single game they've played so far. But having said that, though, I find it very, very difficult to go against Wexford, and I might say by a point or two that they will just about get over the line.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's very easy to look at this game and think, oh, Wexford are on the road, so we're going to go with Antrim to win this game. I think that Wexford will get the job done in this game, but I don't think by as convincingly as Dublin did it. I think they'll win the game by about 4 or 5 points.
Yep, I think that's it's a good shout. I think it's well. I think if they don't get a win up there, I think then there's huge problems for Wexford, and that then the kind of it's panic stations really.
Yeah. Moving on to the next game on Saturday in Division 1B. At 5:15 in Parnell Park, Dublin will play Clare, and I think that this is a very hard game to call.
Yeah, this is where I'm gonna put my neck on the line and say that Dublin are gonna win this game. I think I've been impressed with kind of how they've kind of after a disappointing kind of opening against Kilkenny. I think Dublin have been pretty good in the two games since then. I know probably against not the toughest opposition since then, but yeah, I think Clare aren't exactly tearing up trees right now. They still like have kind of always kind of had the edge in Dublin. They seem to always beat them, but I think this is the game where Dublin in Parnell Park they get a win, like an important win for them to build on as the year goes on.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you just about. I think that Dublin are going to get the job done. I think they're going to win by, 2 points, say, around that scoreline. I think it's been a while since Dublin have won a game where I didn't 100% expect them to win. And I think this would do massive good to the players' confidence if they could turn over a Clare side who have superb players, but they're vulnerable, as has been well documented, the problems with their management. Yeah, so I think Dublin can get the job done, and I think that they will. The last game in Division 1 on Saturday in Group A, Cork go to the LIT Gaelic grounds to play the All-Ireland champions Limerick, who have yet to get a win in the league this year. How do you see this game going? Bit of a dress rehearsal for their All-Ireland championship meeting, perhaps.
Yeah, this one is fascinating. This one is, in my opinion, the game of the weekend. It's very, very hard to call. Might be a bit of shadow boxing involved, like you were saying there, but yeah, I think Limerick will be adamant that they do not want to lose this game. Like they want to win out of this. 3 games and no wins is like unprecedented for them. They went pretty much 15 months there without a loss, and then now that they've gone 3 games in the league, no wins. So I think they'll be coming out like really, really wanting to win this game. And it is so hard to kind of bet against Limerick, even still, despite their kind of poor form. I haven't said that. I like where Cork are at the moment. I like kind of how they've been playing. I know they had a huge win against Westmeath the last day, which you can't really read a lot into, but I can't see Cork being beaten here. And I'd either just go with a draw or Cork by a point or two.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, but I can't go against Limerick. As you said, they haven't won a game yet in the league. I think they're going to go all out to win this game. I think Limerick are going to win this one.
Yeah. I think it's kind of seems weird to go against them, but at the same time, I'm looking at how Cork have played so far. They kind of edged out that draw against Tip when they were probably probably unlucky not to win that. And they just seem kind of hard to beat right now, especially in the league and everything. The few kind of young players that they've got through, and I just think they look very, very sharp right now. Maybe Limerick got a lot done in the kind of with the week off and everything as well. I know they were playing challenge games, but I just don't think Cork are going to be beaten at the weekend.
Yeah, no, I understand completely where you're coming from. I think that there could be an element of Cork trying to lay down a marker to Limerick before the championship game, as in like you've got a game on your hands now when we play each other in the championship. But yeah, I can't look past Limerick in this game. Their backs against the wall a bit now, and I think that they're going to show why they're champions. On Sunday at 1:45 in 1B, Kilkenny play Laois. I can't see anything other than a Kilkenny win in this game.
Yeah, I'd probably fear for Laois again. Like kind of Kilkenny have kind of faced a few of the kind of teams that they expect to beat so far, and they've done so resoundingly every single time. Kind of like comfortable enough against Dublin week 1 by about 5 points. They put away Antrim despite a really spirited kind of performance by them. And then we know what happened last week when it was a very, very comfortable kind of win against Wexford, probably the most comfortable win so far to date. So yeah, I'd expect them to kind of keep up that form and probably have their biggest win to date. Maybe they might rest TJ again here and kind of save him for future games. I think Lee should be hoping that they do.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think if TJ doesn't start for Kilkenny, the scoreline will be dramatically less. But I still can't see anything other than a Kilkenny win here. Moving on from that game, it could be another massacre for Westmeath. Tipperary come to Cusack Park in Mullingar. Again, I can't see anything other than a Tipperary win here.
Yeah, like I feel like I'm repeating myself every week, but Westmeath will be praying the Tip rest a few players for this. So, there is no kind of respite for them really at the moment. They'd Cork the last time, they'd Waterford before that. So yeah, I think they'll be hoping for another Waterford situation where Tipperary pretty much make about 13, 14 changes for this game and try to get a few of the fringe players in that haven't got a lot of chemistry with each other maybe. So but yeah, I think Tip will kind of retain a bit of a kind of structure on their team here, and I expect them to win by 15, 20 points.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think it would be a good chance for Tip to see how they would play without the likes of Jason Ford and Noel McGrath and Brendan Maher and these guys, to give their young players a chance to likes of Paddy Cadell, to see how these guys come into the team, make Jake Morris the centre forward or the full forward, see how he handles it. Try bring through these under 20 lads. I think it's a very good opportunity for them.
Yeah, and another chance to get Brian McGrath in fullback to see if they can develop him as the long-term answer there. They've been crying out for a fullback for years, and they need to give him as much game time back there as they can.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. The last game then in Division 1 on the weekend, Division 1 Group A at 3:45 in Pearse Stadium, Galway will play Waterford, a repeat of the 2017 All-Ireland Hurling final.
Yeah, this one I will like. Waterford had a great win last time against Limerick. Whether Limerick stayed at 15, I'm not sure if Waterford would have won that game. But yeah, I think Galway are going to have a few of their fellas back. You look on the last day, they slipped up against Tip, but they dropped kind of Evan Nyland dropped out of the team, Cathal Manning dropped out of the team and stuff with the kind of the idea of kind of resting players, not overworking them. I reckon all those lads are going to come back in. And I think Galway are going to be back to the level that we saw from them for the first 2 weeks. And I think they're going to win this game by between 5 to 10 points.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree that Galway will get the win. I'd be more likely to say they'll get it by about 5 points. I think Waterford will look to show that the victory against Limerick was no fluke. I think they'll put out a good account of themselves. But yeah, I think Galway will bring back the likes of Nyland and Cathal Mannion, and they'll just be too strong for Waterford and they'll get the job done by about 5 points. So
yep, absolutely.
I'd have one more interesting question for you now. I want you to put your neck on the line here, Luke. Who would you predict to win the All-Ireland right now?
Well, it's probably funny to considering what I've said earlier in my predictions, but I still think Limerick are gonna win the All-Ireland this year. I think they're kind of taking it very slowly this year. They're easing lads back in. They looked very kind of raw for the first couple of weeks, but I think each week that goes on, they're gonna just keep on getting better and better. Maybe they might not win Munster this year, but I think that would nearly suit them better. expect them to, the more games they play, that they're going to just keep bullying teams. And I still can't see anyone kind of really putting it up to them, like to fully expect to beat them as the year goes on. Like obviously Galway are probably the second favourites with their full team out. Yeah, and I think it's probably still a year too soon for Cork. Like they look good right now, but it probably still is too much. And then Kilkenny are kind of the other dark horses there in as well. But yeah, so I'd expect Tipperary maybe to potentially go on a run and win Munster. I'd expect Galway or Kilkenny to win Leinster, but ultimately I do think that that Limerick are going to win the All Ireland again. And yeah, I'll put it back to you.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think that Limerick are going to win the All Ireland regardless of whatever way they do it. I think that they could be vulnerable to a bit of a smash and grab from Cork. But I think as the championship goes on and they get their feel for it back and they get their full team back out playing as they did in last year's championship, then I think there's no catching them. I think Galway are the most likely to catch them because I think, as you've said before, they're the only team that really can match them physically, player for player. But I just think Limerick are just too good. They're just a little bit ahead. I think Galway need a year more, perhaps, for a player like Evan Nyland to fully develop. And yeah, I just think if Limerick get caught by Cork in the first round, there might be a chance to beat them, but they'll get a chance to rebuild and they'll come back. And as the hurling gets more into them, as their players like Gerard Hegarty and Cian Lynch settle down more into the team, Declan Hannon comes back. I think once they get back to full strength, I still think that they're just that little bit ahead of everyone else.
Yeah, the only thing I'd be keeping an eye on now is to see how Kilkenny keep getting on over the weeks. Like we looked the last time they played Limerick in kind of a competitive championship game, and Cody pulled an absolute masterstroke in that game and nullified Limerick for large parts of it. I was probably one of the most effective kind of jobs that anyone's really done on Limerick pretty much since they won that first All Ireland. So I think if they can kind of keep building and get themselves through Leinster safely, I'd be very interested to see them play Limerick again in the part 2.
Yeah, so that's our hurling part of the show done. I can't wait to listen to that now later on and to hear probably how wrong we've been in our predictions here. But no, so thanks a million, Luke, for all your help over the football and the hurling today.
No worries.
Okay, guys, so that is the end of this episode of the Play On GAA podcast. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the podcast, and take care.